What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 220 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And on today's episode, we're joined by Naylor Taliaferro. He is the host of the LCR Media podcast, owner of a lawn care business, and host of many events throughout the year, one especially being at the Equip or HNA this October, which I'm excited about and wanted to have him on the show to talk a little bit more about the show and what we've got to look forward to, as well as he's got a very interesting entrepreneurial story. So I sat down with him to talk about this on today's episode. And before we get into that, we want to say thank you to our sponsors, Inlight Outdoor Lighting. If you're looking to add outdoor lighting to your hardscaping business, reach out to Inlight Design. That's INLITE Design on Instagram. Follow them to get some inspiration and reach out to them to get that conversation started, as well as Cycle CPA. If you need bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Let them know How to Hardscape sent you for $200 off of their services there. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode with Naylor Taliaferro. Today, we're joined by Naylor Taliaferro. And Naylor, I hope I got that last name pronounced correctly, because I've heard Paul Jameson there at the Green Industry podcast butcher it a few times in my listening to your guys' earlier interviews. So hopefully I got that right. Naylor Taliaferro. He's the host of the LCR Media podcast and YouTuber and clean cut lawn care owner. So we're going to get into a few different things here on this podcast, as well as event organizer throughout the green industry, multiple events throughout the year, but we're going to be focusing mostly on the Equip Expo and perhaps what you may need to know if you're going to the Equip Expo, HNA, wherever, whatever you might call that. But Naylor, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And yes, you did pronounce my last name correctly. And I was trying not to laugh too much out loud when you're saying all that, because, you know, Paul's got a knack for mispronouncing things and he blames it on other people and all that stuff. And I'm like, dude, man, you know, like so what like Mr. Producer said, you know, the producer of a lot of our shows, he said a long time ago when he pronounced my name correctly, I was like, wow, you pronounced my name correctly. He's like, yeah, I just do the opposite of what Paul does. I just try not to pronounce it like Paul, and then usually it's the correct way. So yeah, so he really can get you confused. So you did a good job. I appreciate it. We have a good time laughing about all that stuff.
I've heard Paul mention my Canadian accent, and I don't hear it, but if he can poke fun of my Canadian accent, I can poke fun at his pronunciation of names. Exactly. So there it is.
There you go. I hear it a little bit in certain words that I guess are very Canadian famous, but otherwise, I think it's cool, man. I think we probably have an accent to you, correct?
I honestly, I don't.
You don't hear anything either. I'm sure you, like the Southern folks, you probably hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real, like, you know, drawn out like words and pronunciation. So yeah, it is what it is. We all have fun.
Yeah, there's certain pockets where you'll hear the accent, but for the most part, I don't know what Paul's talking about. So
I see what you did there.
Naylor, thank you so much for joining us here. I've been meaning to reach out and have you on the show for a bit, and this is kind of perfect timing because I'm thinking about going to Equip this year finally, and I hope many of our listeners are going, and just being able to talk to you who's been there many of times, and as well as the events that you've got planned during it. I want to learn more about those, so this is kind of perfect. But before we get into that, Naylor, let's get to know a little bit more about you yourself, your beginnings in this industry. Take this wherever you want to take this, start wherever you want to start, and I'm sure I'm going to have lots of follow-up questions for you, but what are your beginnings in the green industry here?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I have definitely told a version of this story over the year, different versions of the story over the years. So, and as time goes on, more things seem to kind of like resurface, or a different kind of perspective on things, I guess, in my life. And, you know, I start to just reflect on things differently, I guess. So the version of my story kind of evolves, you know, like over time, like I emphasize other things more than other things and so on. But ultimately what happened was I was in retail management for, you know, like right out of college, I started working like a lot of people do in retail, like as a cashier or something at some store somewhere, whether it be a grocery store or a store in the mall or whatever, all the above. And, in high school, I had a couple other random, part-time jobs. But when I was in college, like over the summer in between college, I just went to the mall and I was, just looking for a part-time job like anybody else. And I started working at the Gap, and that was the first like main retail store that I started working for. And I ended up being there for just over 5 years. And in that 5 years through college, and I remember when they interviewed me, they said that they wanted to hire me and everything. Like I had a great interview, whatever kind words that they said. They seemed like they really wanted me to work there, but they were concerned because I was only going to be there for a couple of months and then be going to college. And they didn't want to, they're looking for people, beyond just the summer. Sometimes, in retail, you bulk up for the summer, like before back to school season. But if half of your staff is those people are going back to school also, then how are they able to help you with that back to school traffic of people coming in and buying all new clothes or supplies or whatever for school? Same thing with the holidays. You bulk up for the holidays, and then when it slows down in January, a lot of people either didn't want to be there anyway and leave, or you let them go, whatever. But they were looking for people to go on. So I just really can convince them, which I say this because maybe it kind of just gives people little clues that have maybe followed me along this last 9-year journey on social media. But I convinced them that, maybe I can transfer to the store. There's a store up in by my college where I go to college, which was like 2 hours north from where that was, where I lived. I'm like, there's one in the mall there. Maybe I can transfer there and I'll just continue learning, and then I'll come back over the holidays. And it's not like you have to train anybody new. You know that you'll have me coming back. So that's one extra person. You don't have to worry about training, branding, or anything. And then I can, do the same thing for the summer, and I can just keep coming back and forth. So all the peak times, well, except for the end of the summer, but all these seasonal times, you'll have me as a reliable person that knows everything, because I'll be working at the Gap the entire time, all year long. So I'll just continually be learning and all that. And that got them, and they talked to she talked to the team, and they hired me, and they never regretted it, because quickly within those first couple of years, I got promoted several times to like a lead, and then a supervisor, and then assistant manager at a different store. But like some of those managers split off into other stores in the general vicinity, like the Tri-City area up in New York. There's a lot of malls and a lot of Gaps, so you can kind of bounce around or get transferred to different stores just there, let alone 2 hours away in college. But so it all paid off in the end. But that's how my retail career started, with the Gap, and with them taking faith, in me, and me convincing them, right? Like speaking for my, just coming up. I'm just really good. The reason why I said that is because I'm just really good at finding like the right approach, the right things to say to achieve the results, and the goals that I want. And I mean, there's examples like that all throughout my life. But that one is relevant to this whole story. So I worked in retail for over 15 years. In that time frame, I met my wife. We were dating, obviously, and at first, we didn't get married when we first met, but I met my now wife, I guess what people say. We dated and got married, had kids and all that, but or had one child at that time when I was still in retail, and retail was going one way and my life was going another way. And it was just crazy times. It was the times where like Amazon took over, e-commerce took over, and all these brick and mortar stores, as they call it, all these retail stores were trying to keep up with the demand of e-commerce. Like that, like how do we deal with that? Like, so then everyone's doing this whole like shop online, pick up in the store, all these things, ship to store, all these different versions of how to be omni, and omni channel, whatever, ways of shopping. I forgot all the terms, it's been 9 years, but that put a lot of extra pressure on everybody, including the management, right? Always starts from there and trickles down, and added more workload to our jobs, no extra pay or anything like that. But there's just, created new positions and things like that. But it just really just added a lot of extra work. So, I mean, there was just all of that created a lot of stress, a lot of hours, a lot of everything that just really spiraled retail in a different direction than what I was used to. And even before, it's still retail, even back, 15, 20 years ago, even then, like in the early 2000s, it was still hard to have a family and work in retail. Like it was still challenging because of the hours, right? You don't work, it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's a corporate, quote unquote, corporate job, but it's not a 9 to 5 corporate job. It's all over the place. You're closing, you're opening, you're working mids, you're working every weekend for the most part, all the holidays. Like you're working when nobody else is, like it kind of stinks if you're not into it, like if that's not your jam. And I remember one time in the midst of all this 15 years, I had worked for a couple of different companies throughout that time frame. I didn't work for the Gap the whole time, just the first 5 years. And I went and got promoted, went and worked for another company, like 5, 6 years for each, got promoted, learned a lot, made more money, and just worked my way all the way till the last place that I was at. But during that time frame, that there was a lot of eye-opening experiences, and I remember just there was a meeting that we went to, like a lot of manager meetings, and there was one meeting where like the CEO or COO of the company said to us, just like in jest, I think he was like, I mean, we love what we do, right? I mean, just think about it. We have to, because we work when no one else does. So we have to love what we do. And I think he was thinking everybody was on the same page. And I was in my head, like, it just like hit me. I was like, oh man, that's terrible. He's got a point. Like we're working when no one else is. I want to spend time with my family. I want to go do stuff there on the holidays and have, have weekends to do other things instead of working. Like, I don't know if I love it that much, like to sacrifice all that. So I think that kind of really kind of started to spiraling a little bit downhill too for me in the background. And just like I said, ultimately we just went two different ways. My life was going one way. I had no quality of life. I hardly ever saw my family, so my marriage wasn't doing the best. My relationship with my kids, 2 kids at that point, wasn't the best. I mean, I remember there was times my wife would text me on our little flip phones back then, like, you know, our daughter just took her first, or just our son, or actually, I saw my daughter's first steps. So like my son, like, our son took his first steps. That's what it was, my son. I missed a lot of my son's baby years. That was towards the end of my retail career. And that's what really started to hit me. But there were times with my daughter where, I would go 48 hours without seeing her awake, because she was at the time, this time she was a baby. And if I worked the opening shift, she'd be asleep when I left. And if I came home late because I got stuck at work, she'd be in bed again because she's a baby. So that, they're not up that much. And then I would open the very next day again, and she'd be sleeping again when I woke up. And then if I could get home in time to see her, at dinner time, then I would see her for a short time, give her kisses, and tuck her into bed. So there's literally times I remember recording this in my brain. It's like scarred me. Like there would be 48 hours at a time where I didn't see my baby daughter awake. I would just look at her sleeping in her crib. And like, so that kind of stuff really wears on you, and it really makes you like really trying to get your priorities in check and all that. And then like I said, with my son, I miss a lot of things that my wife just had to tell me about. So it just really got out of control, got out of hand, and I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't see an end in sight. We were a homeowner at that point, and I got my green thumb around my house, just learning all about grass. There was no YouTube like it is today. There was no one putting out YouTube videos. This was like probably 15 years ago when I was, kind of really getting into all that. Before I quit retail, a few years prior to that, I was really trying to get my green thumb with our house and grow grass around, because I don't know how it is everywhere in the world maybe, but a lot of places around North America anyway, they build houses and they just kind of throw some seed down, or they just do the front, not the back, or whatever. It's never just like a guaranteed, hey, we're just going to do your entire property looking like a lush carpet. We're going to sod your whole I mean, you could probably pay extra for that, or just pay someone to come in and do that, obviously. But a lot of homeowners, they're just like, they're barely can, they're like bleeding money by the time they finally move into their new house. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're just happy to finally be in here and it's not falling apart, and it just becomes a money pit, right? And then you look outside and you have no yard, and you're like, oh, here we go. So anyway, that was us. So I chipped away at that little by little, and just kind of figured stuff out, going to all the big box stores, going to all the mom and pop stores, like the True Value, hardware stores, and all those kind of places. And just looking at all the different gadgets and gizmos, everything. I was all about the lawn and garden section, books, magazines, all that stuff, because there was no internet like there is today, where you can just Google stuff and then everything's at your, everyone's got a book or an online training course, YouTube videos, blogs, like none of that stuff. There was a little bit, but it was really primal, really primitive, really primitive. That's the word, to say the least. So I just had to figure it out on my own, and I did, and I had a really good, beautiful looking lawn. It was lush, green, tall fescue carpet. I was the envy of the neighborhood. A lot of the neighbors, a lot of the neighbors, a lot of the women, a lot of the wives would ask my wife for tips on how for them to give to their husbands to help make their lawn look like ours. So I became, I was everyone's best friend at that point, right? Like, yeah, all the guys are probably like, this guy, man, come on, like, because I would feel a certain kind of way if my wife was like, hey, Johnny does this and this for his yard, and it's really green. I'd be like, what's wrong with our yard? Or, oh, you don't think our yard is green enough? Like, you know how it is. Unfortunately, a lot of I think it's more of a male thing. I mean, I'm sure, it happens to women with women also. Like when women and women get together, they get a little crazy too sometimes with the drama, hating on each other. But guys definitely take it a certain kind of way. We take it personal when, like, we kind of feel threatened by our guy stuff from another guy. Like, what? So unfortunately, I was that guy unintentionally. I was just trying to make my yard look nice, and then everyone's just noticed, and I was just, the envy of the neighborhood. So that's kind of where the whole lawn care thing really started with me, but as a homeowner. And then as I got to the point where I was ready to just, like, I just didn't even know what to do in my life, and I literally just was falling apart, like just having like a on the verge of a everything breakdown, mental breakdown, emotional breakdown, everything. Right around that time, fortunately, somebody had, we had moved from up north, and we were from the state of New York, so we moved from up there down to Central Virginia, the Richmond, Virginia area where we live now, which was a long time ago now. But when we first moved down here, I kept all my stuff, my mower and trimmer and all that, all my homeowner stuff, the residential equipment, push mower, all that stuff. And I kept it all. My wife's like, why are you keeping? Because we got rid of a lot of stuff before I moved, like sold it or gave it away, like kids' Power Wheels, things like that they outgrew and that we didn't want to move down here with it. And so she's like, why are you bringing that? I'm like, because it's my stuff. It's like, these are like my babies, man. Like, this is my stuff, like a man and his mower. Don't mess around, don't mess with us. But so I just kept it because I'm like, well, we're going to eventually get a house, right? Because at the time we were just renting a townhouse because we were just trying to get our bearings in a new area and everything before we just jumped into buying a house. We wanted to really get familiar with what area do we really want to live in? Do we want to stay in this particular neighborhood in this area, or do we want to move, other part of towns or whatever, still stay in the same school district for our kids, which is a really good school district, which is one of the reasons why we moved to this area, because of the school district. But, that is a big district. So there's a lot of places to move. So I'm like, whenever we get a house, I'll have all my stuff to take care of our yard. Right now it's being taken care of by the HOA, the company that takes care of the whole HOA and stuff, which in foreshadowing, I was able to watch them a lot and learn a lot of things about how to be a professional. And they're a good company. Sometimes you can learn a lot of bad things from people, but they're a good company and they knew how to do stuff properly. And I learned that over a short time, that the differences, and that's true, and all that, and the way they did certain things made me realize that they knew what they were doing. But so just in foreshadowing or fast forwarding, someone on the Facebook page, which I didn't even have a Facebook at the time, like I wasn't even on social media or anything, but 10 years ago it was, yeah, so 10 years ago at this point, someone posted on the private Facebook group for our HOA, homeowners association, asking for a lawn care, if anyone could recommend someone to mow their lawn, or a lawn care company or something along those lines. Somebody needed their lawn mowed and they were asking for some help. I don't remember what the reason was or what, but my wife saw it because she was on Facebook, like all the housewives back then and still to this day. And she was just like, someone ask for lawn care? Do you want me to give them your name and contact info? Because she knew, I didn't really mention this part, but at some point before we moved down here, I was kind of like fantasizing of the idea of a way to get out of lawn care. A way to get out of retail was lawn care. Like, wouldn't it be cool to like start a lawn care business and just do that? That would be epic. Like, I love lawn care and I know how to run, retail businesses. So maybe I can combine the two and do it. But there was really no again, like I said, this was like maybe 15 to 20 years ago, not 10, and maybe 15 years ago. And there wasn't as much out there still, to have like a model or anything to model after or anything. There was just big landscape companies, and I'm like, I don't want to be a big landscape company. That's kind of intimidating with like 10 crews and huge property and all that. Like, I'm just trying to like cut people's grass and treat their yard. Like, is that not a thing? And 15 years ago, at least up in our area in New York, it just wasn't really a thing. There was not a lot of guys driving around with a truck and a trailer just cutting grass or doing a handful of different services. Like, it was just only big companies that did everything. Like, you had to sign up for the whole package, and it was almost kind of frowned down upon, like you were rich and famous and fancy if you had a big landscape company come and take care of all your stuff, pruning, mowing, mulching, weeds, fertilizing, gutters, like leaves, anything and everything. Like, they did it all. Of course, if you want side projects, like, hey, can I get a patio installed or whatever, they do that too. Like, that just seems so intimidating to me, as well as it was frowned down upon anyway. So fast forward, to now, really. But I mean, like, even like 10 years ago, when this happened with Facebook, it was becoming more of a common thing. There was, fertilization and weed control only companies that were, huge. There's obviously True Green, but then there's a lot of local places, local companies in Virginia and so on, and regional companies, the Rupert Landscapes out there that landscaping that are also, I think they're national, but or maybe they're regional, but they're a huge company as well. Like, those kind of things started popping up where they're big but not as big, and then there's all these specialized companies, like, just, hey, we offer mowing and landscaping, or we just offer landscaping, hardscaping. Like, that stuff really started popping up a lot 10 years ago, and it just seemed a lot more practical to now all of a sudden just have a lawn care business. So but I hadn't really thought about it after that. Like, I fantasized about it way, way back, and it seemed like a pipe dream and intimidating for me. But my wife, I guess, remembered that whole conversation. That's why she asked me, is the point to my story 10 years ago. And I was in such a bad place. I was so depressed. I wasn't really even like, didn't even realize the opportunity of it all. But I did fortunately say, okay, or sure, whatever. And had I not reluctantly said yes, like, you and I wouldn't be talking right now. I wouldn't be in this community. I wouldn't be doing anything. I don't know what I might be dead for all I know, from stress, heart attack, stroke. There was a lot of people I didn't know personally, but I heard of in different companies that I worked for that worked themselves to death, literally. Like, 3 companies prior to the one that I left retail, which was one of my favorite companies, a sporting goods company, but it was based up in New York. Um, Somebody worked themselves to death. They had pneumonia and didn't know, and just went to bed one day and died. Like, they laid on the couch just to take like a break in between shifts. Like, they just worked all, like, they worked like 12, 13, 14-hour shifts, trying to like get their store on track or keep it on track. I don't know if it was a busy time of the year or what, but it's typical for us, hardworking go-getter folks. When you're in retail, it kind of becomes a little bit like slave labor. We just, we get identified as those leaders that just will do everything and anything and everything, and we'll just work ourselves to death. Literally, we're like workaholics. And if there's no one helping us, like, hey, take a break, like, we'll just work ourselves forever. So this guy literally worked himself to death, and it was terrifying. A whole big thing. We had conference calls about it, and there was like this whole big thing about, your health and stuff. And then I got pneumonia, ironically enough, like that same year after I heard that. So I was like, yeah, I'm not messing with this. I told my DM, my doctor was like, you need to take at least 3 days off and just drink nothing but Gatorade, take all these antibiotics. Here's an inhaler so you can breathe, open up your lungs a little bit. And I'm like, oh man, this is terrible. I can't work. And he's like, you need to take at least 3 days off. Here's a doctor's note. And I'm like, oh Lord, this is not going to go well. I work in retail. Do you not understand? He's like, I don't care. Do you want to die? Like, this is serious. I'm like, oh man, like, let the antibiotics kick in, let your body start to recover, stay hydrated, and stay home, get some sleep. So I went straight to work after, and I called my district manager and I told him the bad news, and he was upset, to say the least, which is terrible, right? Like, he wasn't upset that I was like, oh man, he wasn't upset that I was sick, like, wow, that's awful, man. That's terrible that you're sick. I feel, like get better, like not that kind of upset. Like he was upset that I couldn't work. He was upset that I was sick and I couldn't work. And I was just like, oh man, I knew it wasn't going to go well. But my whole team, I was running the store at that point. So that was kind of like one of the highlights of not that incident, but that time frame was one of the highlights of my retail management career because I was running that store and we were one of the top 10 stores in the company and my team was phenomenal and I was just having a great time. It was a highlight, but it took a lot of hard work, obviously, and I was working myself too much and not getting enough sleep and rest. And I was literally in the back room. I couldn't even talk anymore because every word that came out of my mouth was a little bit of a breath and it would make me cough like crazy. So then I finally just went home, way past my end of my shift, finally went home, was coughing like crazy, sitting on the couch waiting for dinner with a hoodie on, freezing to death. My wife's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I don't think so." She's like, "Just go to bed, go to bed." And I went to bed. In the middle of the night, I started coughing so hard I had to get up and run to the bathroom and vomited in the sink. That's how hard I was coughing. And my wife was like terrified and she took my temperature. I had a fever, like some epic, like 105-degree fever or something. She called the doctor, emergency, all this stuff. They told her to pump me full, alternate aspirin and Tylenol and all that kind of stuff, and alternate that to try and keep the fever down. And they made me an emergency appointment the next day. And like I said, I got pneumonia and all that. But so it was just it was just some dark times. I digress, but like I literally could not even be existing on this earth had I stayed in retail. So fortunately, I said yes, and the rest is history. I started mowing this guy's lawn with my Ryobi hand trimmer and blower, my Husqvarna mower, push mower, and I was just cutting his yard, which was in the same neighborhood, which is super easy and convenient. And then one thing leads to another, like neighbors and friends of friends. All of a sudden, people start recommending people. And before you know it, I had like 6 people all over town. Route density was terrible. I didn't even know that was a thing. I was just happy to have, I was like, wow, this is cool. I'm mowing 6 people's lawns. This is something. But I was still working in retail like 50 to 60 hours a week. And I was just bringing a change of clothes with me, shoving everything in the back of my Jeep Compass, which has a hatchback. It's not like it's like a Jeep Wrangler. It's not like a Wrangler. It's like the Cherokees and all those like SUVs. Just put everything in the back, and when I would be done with work, or when I could be done with work, and sneak out, I would change in my office and sneak out the back and hop in my Jeep and go try and get whatever I could get, at least 1 yard done before dark, because I couldn't really get all 6 yards done on my 1 or 2 days off because one, we would often make plans as a family, and two, it took a long time to mow those 6 yards with a 21-inch mower. Like the yards that we have in this area and the yards that I had were all big ones, of course. They're all like 10, 15,000, 18,000 square foot yards. So it'd take me like hours to mow, trim, edge, and blow these yards. And of course, I'm still doing it on a homeowner level. Like I hadn't learned like the efficient, most speedy way, and I didn't have any commercial equipment. Obviously, I had a 21-inch mower, not even a commercial. Even if I had a commercial 21-inch mower, I didn't even know that was a thing until I started doing all this. And trust me, there's a big difference between a residential 21 and a commercial 21. A commercial 21, I could have gotten the yards done even faster and all that and more efficient. But I didn't know anything. I was just starting from the ground up, just trying to figure it out. So but that's where I really got my feet wet, and I remember during all that craziness, when I was mowing those lawns, I was like at peace. Like I felt like I was in like a whole nother like time, like an alternate universe or something. And I just remember thinking to myself, man, it just felt so good to be in control of my time and my destiny and my own business and all this stuff. Like just everything about that really appealed to me because it was the complete opposite of what I was dealing with in retail management. So I didn't have to deal with employees and customers or anything like that. I mean, there's the one customer you're mowing their lawn, but typically they're not even there, or they're just in the house and they say hi, bring me some water. Like, I didn't have bad customers right out the gate. So, I mean, I just was like really like, I was hooked right away. And I just kept thinking, I remember thinking to myself, man, if I could do this like full time, this would be epic. Like I could definitely do this full time. So I think doing it 1 year part time really kind of primed everything for me. And then at the same time, things declined so severely with retail management and my personal life that I just literally just quit. Like I literally around the holidays just, like what happened? My boss, the store manager, whose office is smaller than mine, so that should tell you something, that I was just going to live there. Apparently the assistant manager is the one that does all the work, not the store manager. I'm like, man. So like, and he comes in my office and he looks at my pictures of my family, like behind me on the shelves, and he's just like, you have a beautiful family. And he wasn't a nice guy, or at least not to me. Like, no one really thought he was a nice. I'm sure maybe he might be a nice person, like outside of work. I don't know. Maybe retail got to him too. I don't know, but he wasn't the nicest person at all. Like, we definitely did not have the best relationship, and it was frustrating for me because I don't like that. Like, I want to have a good relationship with my supervisor. Like, I want to be led by a good leader. I don't want to just be bossed around by a horrible boss. I only excelled in retail when I was behind good leaders. When I had good leaders to help lead me, then I was also a good leader to help lead others. But when I was just being, bossed around by a horrible boss, I was just, terrible. I was just in a terrible mood. I still got through it and we still got the jobs done, but I wasn't at my peak. So that was that time frame as well. And, I was just depressed all the time and just feeling awful, and everything was declining. So I knew that there was some reason why he said that wasn't nice. I'm just like, what are you getting at? Why are you saying my family is beautiful family? Like, come on, man. So, but I was like, thanks, and he was like, you're going to have to choose. It's either going to be them or this place. And I'm just like, what? Like, I just sat there in silence, like, because I didn't even know how to respond. I just kind of nodded, like, okay. And then he was just like, and he said, said some other nonsense things with a, smirk that you just want to, do some physical violence to, but I don't condone that, of course. But, and then he eventually just got up and left, so he's like, you're just going to have to make a decision because this is too demanding. It takes too much of your time here to be able to do both. He's like, I'm divorced, like it is what it, and now in my heart of hearts, trying to be like I'm ultimately wired to believe the best in people. Like, I lean towards the best in people first. I'm always like giving people the benefit of the doubt, like to a fault, unfortunately. Sometimes I've gotten taken advantage of, I'm sure, over my lifetime. But now in my heart of hearts, I want to believe that was his way of trying to help, by saying, like, you really can't do both, or you're going to destroy your family, or you're going to destroy this place. And, because they can't both coexist, like, you're going to be a terrible manager or you're going to be a terrible family man, like, you can't do both. And I mean, he was definitely right. I could not be at the level that this place needed me to be at, and be at the level that my wife and my kids needed to be at. It just didn't work because I was exhausted all the time, and I barely got any sleep because I would work till like 11 o'clock, the closing shift the night before, and then have to work at 7 in the morning the next morning. Like, how much sleep can you really get in that time frame? You go home, you got to unwind a little bit, maybe have a snack, hop in the shower, maybe, or in the morning. Either way, that's all cutting into your sleep time. Like, man, if anyone's up, if my wife's waiting up, then we're talking and catching up. Like, so like, you rinse and repeat that every week, day after day. I mean, not every day was like that. Some days, you worked more of a normal separation. You weren't closing and then opening. Those are the clopins, they call them, the infamous clopins. But there were times where you opened and then you closed the next day, or opened twice in a row, or whatever. But it still was rough. So yeah, it definitely was tough to do both. So I just didn't. I just quit. I just, shortly after that, I pressed a hard reset button, put in my 2 weeks notice right after Christmas, or right around Christmas, I believe. And that was that. I just went all in on lawn care. And I'm like, I did this for a year part-time. It's the winter. So I had so much PTO, personal time off. That's what the vacation time that they had. I had so much saved up. And fortunately, this company pays you out, where other companies, you either use it or you lose it. So fortunately, this place, it pays you out, you get paid out. So I had so much vacation time saved up because I could never take it because I was always so busy working, and everybody else, wanted a day off. So it was always hard to, like, get your requests off on the calendar first. And every other weekend was some made up holiday, some big sale to try and boost sales that everybody had to work. And it's like, oh my gosh. So I just had so much time saved up that I literally had over a month worth of salary. So it was like I was still working. I was still getting paid. So that was good. It was like a savings in a sense that I didn't really think about or plan for. It was just there but it was good. It was there for a reason. It was there like like the fact that I couldn't take it, and then I got it back. It's like I don't know what the right word is, but it was like fate, like it's like here, like solace or something to all of the drama that I had to go through. So at least I got that, and I was able to focus on what do I have to do, like come up with a name, because I didn't even have a name or anything when that first year I was part-time. I was just cutting people's grass for cash. I didn't know anything about anything. Like I started to think about how do I keep track of my money, like QuickBooks, invoicing software. There, I didn't even know if there was a CRM, or if that was even, I didn't even know that terminology back then. I just knew, I was a tech savvy person back then as well. So like I had a smartphone and I was looking at different apps. I would always going looking for like note taking apps and this and that and all kinds of fun stuff for like business and office. So I did look into like invoicing software. I'm like, just got to be an easier way. I'm not going to go to an office supply store and get those carbon copy receipt things and fill this out like for people. There's got to be a better way than that. So like I found some generic, like a QuickBooks, but it was something else, invoicing software that literally just did invoicing. Like you could, you had all your clients, information in there, but it wasn't anything like a CRM. It's just, you had to make an invoice separately for each time you did a job. It wasn't reoccurring or any of that stuff, so it was very, very minimum, but you could at least do estimates and invoicing and keep track of everything. And that's what I did. So that I just leaned into all that winter so I could really go all out. And like I said, figure out a name, a logo, uniforms, magnets for my truck, and really just try to get out the gate as efficiently as possible. And my wife helped me get a Facebook business. First, I had to have a Facebook page and then make a Facebook business page. And so then I could start posting stuff, instead of paying for a website right away. Because again, you're doing everything on a budget typically when you first start out. Like everything is like super cheap. You're just trying to find the cheapest way to do things, the most affordable way to do things until you can start growing your business and start investing little by little and stuff. So that's what I did. I borrowed some money from a family member to buy a 48-inch walk behind Toro mower and a 5x10 open single axle trailer. I traded in my Jeep Compass for a used F-150. Somehow got a really good deal off of that. They actually ended up paying me like a $600 check afterwards because the Jeep was worth more than the truck. But the truck lasted me 5 years. It was in great shape. Before I traded in, the engine started leaking. So I'm like, all right, I think it's time to go with this bad boy. But it lasted me 5 good years of my beginning of my business. So I came a long way. Ended up getting an enclosed 7x60 enclosed trailer, all types of stuff. Eventually upgraded to, more equipment, commercial trimmers, blowers, stand-on mowers, all that stuff. Got employees, quickly discovered the whole route density scenario, how you can be more profitable and save more time when you have more, houses, more properties closer together and build those routes so that you can just not drive all over town. So I quickly jumped on that and started refining that. And that's just grown and grown and grown, which helps you grow because you're in the neighborhood so much that you kind of become synonymous for people when they see you driving around all the time. It becomes a very easy word of mouth and social proof and all that when you're in those neighborhoods with route density. So that's pretty much what I was doing before lawn care, how I got into lawn care, and kind of where I'm at now. So yeah.
Wow, Naylor, quite the story there. And we're all out of time. No, I'm just kidding. I can
know,
tell
right?
you're a podcaster.
Yeah.
That was excellent, man. And I do have some questions here for you just from what you said there. I just want to take a break from today's episode to talk about our sponsor, Cycle CPA. You may have a CRM or project management software in place, but what data are you using to ensure your estimating is accurate? Having a proper accounting setup and accurate bookkeeping done is key to understanding overhead expenses and other costs that must be recouped in your estimates. Cycle CPA is a remote bookkeeping and CFO firm that helps to connect the dots from the financial reports to the hardscape and landscape data needed in order to reach high profits. They provide landscape and hardscape industry benchmarking, job costing, financials by service line, advisory meetings, and much more. Cycle CPA's team of accountants are specialized within the hardscape and landscape industry, and you can visit them at cyclecpa.com, and for $200 off, mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Now back to our episode. Getting into like your experience in retail. I worked in retail for a little bit. I know it's got a lot to do with customer service, I'm sure. With your situation as well, were you able to take any of that customer service and apply it to when you're first starting out your business, and you first get into those troubles with clients, a complaint or anything like that? Were there transferable skills that you learned in your retail experience that you're able to translate into your lawn care startup when you're just starting out?
Yeah, for sure. There is a lot of transferable skills from, business is business, customers are customers. So no matter where you are, what you're doing, there's a lot of transferable skills. So for sure, like handling, conflict, being in management as well, I had a lot of training on a lot of things like conflict resolution and training and, human resources, just what to say, what not to say, how to handle different things, being organized, like, we like bookkeeping kind of like to a certain extent, because there was just certain things that we always had to do as managers. Like when we opened in the morning, we had to, either small stores, I had to actually count the money, or bigger stores, someone else counted the money, and I just had to verify the money, and everything would be logged. And back in the Gap days, we had like a ledger that I always had to fill out, and there'd be these formulas to figure everything out, and P&Ls to read, and all, like a lot of business stuff that when guys just kind of jump into lawn care or whatever service they're providing, a lot of times they don't think about any of that. They're just trying to make that cash, real quick, and they don't really know about all that other stuff. But I had that kind of business background, so I knew about knowing your number. I didn't necessarily know how much to charge and all that stuff right out the gate, but I knew like the concept of knowing your numbers and looking at reports and P&Ls. I was always really good at that. At retail, people, all of my peers, other managers would always ask me for help with certain reports, because a lot of times we'd have to like submit our own report off of our reports or whatever, and submit it to our higher ups. And I was really good at all that kind of stuff. I would literally analyze things and make changes in my store so that I could move the needle in certain aspects of the business based off of all not just the P&L was like your snapshot, but there'd be all types of reports. Like I would just like spend hours analyzing. I would look at this report and this report, so all those kind of things really helped me be analytical with my own lawn care business and focus on numbers and reports. Like, that's where CRMs really come in handy, because there's tons of reports, and, the more information you put into the CRM, the more you get out of it. And you can really dial in your numbers, know how long it's taking you to do these properties, what man hour do you want to make, like what per hour do you want to actually make, and plug that into a formula, and, measure square footage or amount of a product or this or that or whatever. And you just start having all these calculations, and now you can quote properly. You can see the numbers, look at these reports and see where you're profitable and where you're not profitable. Why is these jobs taking longer here and not, and, or on these days or whatever. You can really figure that stuff out. So I kind of had that whole foundation from retail. But then of course, yes, the customer service aspect, like I've always been a patient and personable kind of guy, I guess, like I've always been good with customers, no matter what the scenario is, like helping diffuse situations and just talking to people in general, helping them find. I was never a salesperson. Like I was never comfortable with someone, as soon as someone walked into the store, try and sell them something that without even knowing if they want it, like try and have them open up a credit card for that store, for example. That was always the hot thing for, back then. And that wasn't me. There was a lot of people that were like that, but me, I was like, hey, how are you? You need help finding anything? Of course, I would jump on that. No, I'm good. I'm just shopping, or I'm just browsing, and I'm like, all right, well, just let me know if you need, let us know if you need anything. Or if they did say, yeah, actually, I'm looking for, blank. I'd be like, yeah, sure, it's right over here. Let me show you. And then they would ask me questions, and I sold things by giving knowledge. Like I was a great knowledge provider. Like if somebody needed information, I give it to them, and then that would sell the thing, the service or the product or whatever. I was not the person that could just go out in a parking lot and be like, how you doing? You want to buy this? You want to buy that? And just sell all this random stuff. I never had that skill, and still don't. So I think customer service kind of leans more towards how I am already naturally wired, where you are helping people that need help. Like that's kind of a customer service mindset. Like they literally, the customer service desk is that people come to you for help, but customer service as a whole is helping people. You're not like trying to sell stuff, necessarily. So that I've always been naturally good at that and excelled at that. And being in retail management, of course, helped that be even better. The problem was I dealt with so many customer issues that I was kind of like scarred. So when I had my own business, like I didn't have like that oh, this, I'm working at this company, I have to just grin and bear it. Like for some reason I thought, like, oh, it's my own business, I can say and do whatever I want to these people, so I don't really care. But then I'm like, wait, it's kind of like, it's my business, like, and just because I can say whatever I want, do whatever I want, doesn't mean I should, because that might have some catastrophic, fallout, chain reaction, some bad outcomes for my business, reputation, all that stuff. So I still had to put the same game face on, but I definitely tell people how it is in a very professional, sarcastic way, more than I used to back in the day, back in the retail days, because now I don't have to worry about, a boss's boss or some corporate hotline following up on me and getting written up and all that nonsense. Worst case scenario, I lose a customer or I don't gain that customer. Like, I'm not disrespectful, but I don't let people take advantage of me. I don't let people walk over me. I don't let people just, just treat me however they want with that. Like, that's just not it. I've been there, done that for 15 years. So why would I do that now that I'm in control? So I try to stay away from those people. Like, there's a lot of red flags. So, I try to stay away from those kind of people, but sometimes you can't really get that stuff right away. So sometimes halfway in the season, you'll start seeing these red flags. I'm like, all right, well, it's time to move on. Like, sometimes I'll wait till the end of the season. Sometimes it's so bad, I just cut them loose right in the middle of the season or whatever time, I give them a couple of weeks notice or whatever, but I'm not going to deal with that kind of stress, so that also is what I learned from retail, that there's no need for me to continue dealing with all that stress. Like, I need to structure my business the way I want my business to be structured. That's it, period, case closed. So
what about dealing with, I'm sure, a wide variety of different types of people and characters in retail, everything from employees, part-time employees, full-time employees, your managers, like you were talking about there, as well as customers themselves. What were you able to kind of transfer from that into your business? Everything from the customers that you deal with to the employees, and identifying certain traits in employees, and identifying employees that would be good long term for you, and holding on to those, and maybe tailoring yourself more towards those employees. Anything like dealing with people that you were able to transition from your retail experience over to your lawn care experience?
yeah. Well, the two things. One about employees is, I try to preface all of this and I try to think about everyone else, because I naturally have intuition where, like, I can just interview, like back in my retail days, there'd be like a book practically of all the standard questions and procedures and skits and role plays, and depending on what flavor these companies were feeling like, that month or that year. But it was always this whole big ordeal just to interview people, to quote unquote find the right person. And a lot of times none of that stuff worked. It was just a waste of time. Like, I could literally like sit down with someone and immediately know if they were going to be a right fit, just from their energy, their vibe, the way they looked, the way they looked from a presentation standpoint, not like, how they look, like their face or their hair. Like, are they like a hot mess, or did they roll in like, looking like they just came out of a dumpster and they smell like a dumpster, or did they make an effort to put themselves together and look a little more professional, like look like how they expect to look when they work, right? That's how you should go to an interview, looking like you're ready to work at that place. Like, so not I get that we all come from different means and we're not all rich and famous and all that, but if you're going to a job interview, you need to look the part the best you can, get the best of whatever clothes you do have, try to clean yourself up the best you can, do your hair the best you can, make sure you don't have any stains or dirt on your face. I mean, just look like how the people that work there look. so that you look the part, that's half the battle right there. So I mean that, like, so there's that, which we'll go into the second part that I was going to also say. But so there's that. I can see how I can just see like the whole vibe that they're giving off physically. And then as soon as they start talking and I ask them a couple of questions, I can just immediately tell and get a good vibe. And I was right like 99% of the time. Like literally, I would know if they weren't a good fit, and I would just kind of go through the motions, just kind of shorten everything so I didn't have to waste my time or their time, but be respectful of their time. They come in 30 seconds later. I'm like, all right, it was good talking to you. See you. Like, didn't want to do that. But the people that don't have the intuition, what I will say and what I tell people is you should look for personality traits more than over skills and experience, because you can train people just about anything. Of course, if it's something that you have to be licensed and certified or something, then that's a thing. Obviously, you need to make sure that that person's capable of going through that before that. But I mean, just like any job, whether it be a cashier or someone on your team to help cut grass, trim, all that stuff, put down mulch or whatever, you want to make sure they have a good personality. Like, you got to think about personality traits. You can't teach a nice attitude. You can't teach patience. You can't teach someone being, on time. You can't, treat attention to detail. I mean, train attention to detail. Like, all those kind of things are personality traits that I look for in a human being when I interview them for anything. When I interviewed them in retail and now in lawn care, like, I want them more to be a good person that I will enjoy working with and will give a good vibe to my clients and the rest of the team. And, otherwise, what is the point, right? Of course, there's times where you have really good personality people. I've had some as well over the retail days and, lawn care, where they're really good people, but they just didn't really get it. They just didn't really pick up the whole lawn care thing. It just wasn't for them. And okay, that happens. You just have to part ways. You have to be professional and move on. That's what, 30, 90-day probationary periods, whatever you want to do, that's, quarterly reviews, whatever. That's what all that stuff is for, however much you want to incorporate that. I took a lot of that corporate stuff and tried to simplify it more for a lawn care business. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a big corporation, but I still want to be professional. I still want people to feel like it's a professional, job, a professional career, not just sitting in a truck with some guy cutting grass, like for some extra cash. Like, I want it to feel more as professional as possible, so that's like my biggest tip that I learned and that I can share with anyone listening for looking for employees. And it's not about the best answers and how much experience and skills they have. That all helps, obviously, but for me, the number one thing is their personality. Like, what kind of personality they have. If they're great, if they could trim like a beast, but if they make everybody miserable, and then they don't talk to customers when they're being talked to, or saying, customer says hi and they're just like ignore them, like that's no good. Who cares how fast they are and how efficient they are? Like, I feel like I'd rather have people with a better attitude and, can get the job done, obviously, well, but we're not trying to win a race or anything. We're trying to have longevity. We're trying to build a reputation. We're trying to build our brand and not upset people. That's not part of brand building. You want them to think good thoughts about your company, and everyone working for you and with you. They're a reflection of you and your company. So there's that. But going also, I started to say into that, like, when you come to the interview looking the part, it's because of perception. I learned a long time ago in retail management that perception is reality. The customer's perception is your reality. So, when I get called to the register to deal with an irate customer that a cashier upset, and I have to deal with that situation. Then after it's all done, the cashier's apologizing to me like, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. I didn't mean to do blah blah blah. And I'm like, I get that you didn't mean to, but that's what you did. Like, the customer felt that you did this. The customer thought you did this. Like, they perceived this, whether you meant it or not. Now I had to deal with it. Like, so just remember that their perception is your reality, regardless of if you meant it or not. Like, if it was a mistake, it's now your reality because they perceived whatever. So take that to lawn care and landscaping. just, a simple example that may offend some people, but it's just true. Like if, and I know we all have humble beginnings and we have to start somewhere, but just think about if you want to work in a high-end neighborhood, for example, like a lot of the neighborhoods that I happen to have in my area, I couldn't, or you can't just roll in that neighborhood for a quote with a rust bucket truck with smoke emissions coming out of it, real loud and nasty, and your trailer looks like it's about to fall apart and probably rusted, and your mowers are looking like they haven't been washed, and there's just, thick weeds and grass caked all over it. Like, that is a bad perception. I don't care who you are, but like that is a bad perception, and especially when you're going into a nice neighborhood that wants to keep up with the Joneses. They want the whoever's taking care of their neighbors. They want a company that comes and they're clean and they're professional and they do a good job, and they're not embarrassed to have them in front of their house, because perception is reality. So you might be the best striper, your blades might be sharp, your deck might be crispy clean underneath, but the outside looks terrible, and you might look terrible. Like you might have like a stained up white t-shirt, with some dirty pants with holes in them, and you got a cigarette hanging out your mouth. Like, do you think that's professional? The perception for every single human being in that wants our services of that image is like, okay, they're probably cheap, so I can give me a bargain. Or I don't want this person anywhere near my property. This is embarrassing. Susie's going to be like, where'd you find that guy? Where'd you find Billy Bob? And like all the jokes start coming, and it's just not fair to anybody. It's not fair to the person that might be a really good lawn technician. They might be really good at, cutting the grass, and might be a really nice person, but outwardly they are perceiving something that is probably not what they want to be perceived, and it's now their reality, and they wonder why they might not be able to get work in that neighborhood or whatever, or why they can't raise their prices because people think that they're just cheap. I roll in and people just expect that they're going to pay a lot of money, because I don't mean a lot of money like, like crazy, but they expect, for me to have a good price. Like they know I'm not going to be the cheapest person that they've ever contacted. When they see me all over the neighborhood, everyone recommends me on Facebook. And when I roll up to their house, like I do with my truck and trailer looking super crisp and logoed up and professional and all that, my shirt and, hats, all this stuff, they know I mean business. They know I'm serious. They know I'm not just like a fly by the seat of my pants person, just giving it a whirl and see how it goes. And I'll just take $20 cash or $40 cash and just whatever, and show up whenever, show up on a Saturday or Sunday if I can. If it rains, then oh well, like they know I mean business. They know it's real deal. I'm and then it just layers on from there. When they get the emails from the CRM, the professional. I remember back in the day, I would get compliments from people just from an estimate, like, wow, this is the most professional estimate I've ever gotten. And this was like before I even had a CRM. It was just like the invoicing software that I found, but at least it was still professional. I don't know what the heck they were getting from other people, just like a typed out email that was probably misspelled or something like that. Like, I don't know, but I just try to put my best foot forward all the time and be as professional as possible. And that's how I believe was part of the reason why I was able to move so quickly in these neighborhoods and grow so much and get this route density. So those are all things that I took from retail that definitely transfer over to lawn care and landscaping that hopefully will help some other folks out there.
And one quick question before we get talking to you about Equip there, Naylor, sorry. Just because I do want to respect your time and don't want to take too much of it up here.
It's all good.
Standard operating procedures. You mentioned the having the job interview, and they had the questions all listed right there for you. I figure that's just them trying to create some sort of procedure, just so somebody that doesn't have that intuitiveness to kind of read somebody, it's there for right. them. Any standard operating procedures that you observed in your retail experience that you wanted to kind of borrow towards your landscaping business, or just to be able to understand that, what standard operating procedures do this, maybe in some time in the future, I can kind of implement something like that in my lawn care business. Any inspiration that came from those types of procedures during your time in retail?
Yeah, just really trying to be as professional as possible. Like, I didn't have a location, have a time clock or anything, but instead of like writing people's times on a piece of paper, like I had a time clock app or whatever. Now the CRM that I have, has it all in there. You can clock in and out, the team can clock in and out, you can clock them in and out and all that. So just trying to be as professional as possible, having interviews at like Starbucks or something, like instead of like in my truck or whatever, like somewhere where it's somewhat professional, like that, to sit down and have a talk, have a structured interview, questionnaire. Like just because I have intuition, I still follow, a basic structure, and I always have questions specific to the person, like their background or experience or lack of or whatever. And then of course I just kind of go from there within the interview. But I always, for sure, definitely make sure you have a list of interview questions. I mean, there's tons of resources out there that you can, within our industry, if not just Googling, interview questions and stuff, and just kind of formulate your own best choices of what you think are good questions to ask. I mean, or, like as if you're just starting out, maybe not, but, after a little while, you kind of know what questions might be good to ask, and, try and get the information that you want to see if this is a person to be a good fit. But yeah, just like technology and trying to be organized, like all that stuff I got from retail, like, making sure, I look at reports and have apps and CRM, for all that stuff. And I have an app that I put the schedules on for everyone that everyone has access to, so they can just pull up the schedule on their phone, instead of, I don't know what the other options even are. I don't even know what other people do. That's some of these things I don't even know, because I've never interacted with people about those specific things. But I mean, I know some people are still using their Google Calendar for all of their lawns. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, there's better ways, guys. I mean, there's free CRMs out there that you can use that help you, that do better than a calendar. Is you can actually have a route, or a route, whatever you want to say, and just have it all and have it all planned out and have it all in order and all that kind of stuff. And especially for people, if they're just starting out or a new crew leader or something, you got to have something that, systems in place. I have a checklist, a new hire checklist that I go over. They sign it. It goes in their file. I have a locked filing cabinet in my office, like for everyone's all employee files and paperwork and uniform shirt sizes. And I write all that down. And I performance reviews. That's something else that I got from retail. Like I make sure I have a 30-day, temporary. It's like everyone's temporary first 30 days. We'll see how it works out after that. Then after that, it's, you get your, every quarter, every 3 months, you get a performance evaluation. And I give people, merit increases throughout the year based off of their performance and so on. Like, so all of those concepts are from retail, raises, performance reviews, just being professional overall, like tracking your time properly, whether it's some sort of time clock thing versus writing it on a piece of paper or something. And, your employees feel more comfortable in that scenario as well. They feel like it's more professional and their time is being tracked properly and this and that. And so all, like I said, I try to be as corporate as I can for a lawn care business without it feeling like, like bad, not in a bad way, corporate, like just keeping it professional. So so people don't feel like they're just sitting in the truck cutting grass with some guy. So that's a lot of the different things that I've taken, with me from retail, for like you said, like standard operating procedures. Just a lot of things, and that stuff's all evolved. Like I've got documents on my computer that I'll add to, all the new hire paperwork. I've got, just a folder for that, so I can just print it all up, and just have it quickly at my disposal, and direct deposit form, and everything goes through QuickBooks for payroll and paychecks and direct deposits, and all that stuff is super organized and professional, just like any quote unquote real job, that you would have out there. I try to be just as professional as that, the new hire checklist when they first start working, going over all the basics, attendance and, all the policies, call outs, uniform, dress code. I mean, all that kind of stuff. So I know some people have employee handbooks too. I haven't gotten to that point, but that's also another common retail corporate thing that a lot of bigger lawn and landscape companies that I know of have as well. So a lot of good stuff there, a lot of foundational things that I was able to transfer over.
You work hard to build a successful business, and because of this, it is important to work with companies that you can trust, rely on, and whose missions are to give you the highest quality product and customer support. Low voltage outdoor lighting is one of the easiest ways for you to grow your business and increase revenue. Using lighting can make you more profit, add that wow factor, and make your business stand out. Whether you are already using outdoor lighting in your hardscape projects or not, it's time you check out InLight Outdoor Lighting. As a professional hardscaper, we know that you need efficient installs, less callbacks, and premium products to have a successful and growing business. InLight's got you covered. They've created some of the most premium and unique lighting on the market to make your project stand out and wow your clients with their unmatched light quality. It gets better. InLight has an unbeatable customer support team, provides many educational resources like online and in-person training, installation videos, and so much more. They care about your business growth and will be with you every step of the way. For more information on how InLight can help you grow your business, check them out on Instagram at InLight Design. That's at INLITE Design on Instagram. DM them to find out how to put more money in your pocket this season. Now back to the podcast. Okay, so getting into Equip, Louisville, Kentucky, mid-October, and I know there's events going on. So I guess a good way to start this would be area of Louisville, Kentucky to stay so that maybe you're close in and around what the events are going to be located at, as well as the convention center. Where kind of would you be looking at if this was your first time going or, multiple time going, whatever that might be?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Equip does a really great job on their website of partnering with the town of Louisville, like Louisville Tourism and all that. So you can literally book everything on their website. Like they've got room blocks at all these different hotels. It's pretty much, Equip is broken up into two parts of Louisville. There's whatever part of town that the exposition center is at, this huge exposition center right next to a pretty decent sized like amusement park as well that they have. So that's all in one spot, and the airport's right there too. So that's all one big cluster surrounded by a lot of airports and surrounded by a ton of hotels. So, I mean, it kind of depends on what you want to do, right? Like it's pretty cool to stay at a hotel right close to the expo, because then you can, some people literally walked from there. Like they have their parking pass for the hotel. They keep their vehicle parked there and they literally just walk down the street. Some of the hotels are literally in the parking lot of the expo. Like it's literally right there. Like, it's on the street, but the backside of the hotel is literally in the same parking lot. You just have to, you see guys every morning just walking all the way across it's a massive parking lot. It takes like a 10-minute walk, but instead of driving your car over there, it's like just keep it in the parking lot, instead of worrying about dealing with all that traffic, because that parking lot gets packed quick with all the cars for Equip. So it's definitely convenient to stay at the hotels right there, because you're right there by Equip, and there's all different places to eat around there as well. So that's kind of one whole section right there where Equip is. Then there's the whole downtown scene. So you can stay at all the hotels downtown, which is a ton of. Typically, they're a little more expensive because they're the fancier, nicer, high-rise type buildings down there, because it's downtown, right? Every downtown big city, or whatever city. I don't know how big Louisville is in comparison, but it's a city. It's a good sized city, and they've got a lot of cool stuff there. And they've got some nice big buildings downtown, and there's a lot of things. There's a 4th Street. Like 4th Street is a thing for Louisville. Like it's not like an Equip thing, but Equip utilizes 4th Street. They call it 4th Street Live, or maybe it is already called 4th Street Live, but I think it's just called 4th Street, and Equip calls it 4th Street Live because they have a lot of their concerts and activity and things there every night. And it's just laced with restaurants and bars upstairs, downstairs. It's a really cool section of the downtown area. And, the hotels are several blocks away from that. So everyone just kind of walks to that, but if you stay down there, now you have to drive all the way to Equip, which is only like 15 minutes away. But depending on what time of the day, early in the morning or late in the afternoon when everyone is going to Equip or coming from Equip and everything else going on in Louisville, it's a ton of traffic. So you got to keep all that in mind. Are you going to Uber? Are you going to drive? Are you going to fly and then get a rental, or fly and Uber everywhere? There's a lot of hotels that have shuttles all over the place. So again, all that stuff is on their website. The hotels that offer shuttles to and from the airport, to and from Equip. So that's something to factor in. If you're all about the downtown scene where you're going to want to hang out every night and go to the restaurants and the bars and hang out and network and listen to the live music, then maybe you want to stay downtown so you don't have to worry about getting back uptown, I guess, after a lot of drinks and a late night or whatever. So, or, just a long day. Vice versa, you don't want to stay uptown if you are going to go downtown all the time. So it's really just kind of what you want to do. Like, I've done all of those things. I now like typically stay downtown just because I feel like there's a lot of activities that happen downtown. Like, nothing after Equip happens at Equip. Like, everything happens downtown. So it's kind of like just two separate parts of town. You've got Equip during the day and downtown at night. All of Equip's activities are there, as well as all of the social media networking events, all the different meetups. There's so many meetups now beyond what I do. There's so many new meetups and meetups that have been going on for a few years that have grown a lot. Like every night there's like a different meetup at a different restaurant within the community. And it's all on the Facebook group Road to Equip, where I've been trying since 2016. I created that group specifically for this reason, so that as our community grows, there's like a destination that we can all go to see all the information in one place, right? Instead of like going to this person's YouTube channel or that person's Instagram, or I thought I heard so-and-so say something on TikTok about some meetup somewhere. Like, it got real crazy, and like from 2015 to 2016, no one knew who was doing what, when, where, and why. And it was just a lot. So I thought to myself, why don't we just create a Facebook group and we can just kind of organize it all? So I created this Facebook group that's grown to like, I think over 3,000 followers or something now, of just all Equip fanatics, folks like yourself that have been wanting to go, but haven't been able to go yet, but at least you can still follow along, right? I'm sure you are you in the group? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can still kind of vicariously follow along, from all of us posting things. We'll post like at Equip, we post our pictures and our videos. Sometimes people do live feeds. People ask a lot of questions. When are we going here, or who's doing what? Hey, I'm coming in early. Is anyone getting? I mean, people literally create meetups in the moment on the Road to Equip Facebook group, and even Equip is in that group. Like, there's so many brands in the group, and Equip's in the group, which is really cool because they realize the value of this group. Like, there's more interaction, no offense to Equip, but there's more interaction in that group than there is on their page, because it's just, that's just how it is. That's how like the community is, and networking and just social media. You just connect people in a different way than like a business Facebook page or a business, website or whatever. Just a different vibe. There's still a need for that. Obviously, there's all the information on there, but a lot of times people will just ask questions or for information on the Road to Equip Facebook group, and then Equip will literally respond and answer their questions, which is pretty epic. So if not, I'll like tag them and then they'll respond, so it's pretty cool. So that's been like a one-stop shop for everything, all the different meetups. There's like the biggest meetup for the community is called the Rally, the YouTube Rally. It started as like a little meetup that I didn't even go to the first year because it had just manifested itself, and there's like maybe like a dozen people that showed up at a local pizza place right down the road from Equip. And then the second year I went, and a whole bunch of other people went, because it was my first year in business, so I didn't even like have any money to go or anything. I was just trying to like figure everything out. But I was intentional, the next year to save up, and told my wife I really wanted to go and all that. So I went the next year, which was 2015, and everybody went that year. It seemed like everybody at that time in the community went, like all the people on YouTube and a whole bunch of people, watching our YouTube and everything all went. And there was probably like 50 to 60 people there that year at that same pizza place. But then when I created the group and I was like, hey, let me put all this information in the group, create like a little event, a Facebook event, and people can click going and all that, and give the actual address, because there was 2 locations to this pizza place. So that was always a confusion for people to figure out which one to go to. And there was no like quick, streamlined communication to get that answered. Like people, like there was no way to communicate that. People would just go to the wrong one and be like, what the heck? They would have to reach out to the couple of people they might know. But if everyone's confused, and who's going to know, and what are they going to go try and scroll through someone's YouTube channel to find the video or the Facebook post that might have said something? Now it's all streamlined in the group. So by doing that, I inadvertently exploded that meetup and like tripled its size in 1 year. So like probably like 150 something people showed up that year in 2016, and it was packed. There was people in the parking lot, people everywhere. Like there wasn't even any more room. So that began the evolution of, okay, well, I think I need to find another place, like a venue. And that means it's going to cost money. We have to get food catered, to hold all these people. Let me talk to some of these brands at the time. A couple brands like Echo were very interested in the community and starting their own ambassador program. And they were like really early adopters at all of that before everybody else kind of jumped on that bandwagon finally. And so that's where it all started. And, I started getting brands year after year to pay for everything, and we just kept growing. We went to the first location was the Mega Caverns, which is a really cool whole nother story there, but it's a cavern, not a cave, but very similar. But there's a whole story there. A cave, there's only one way in and out. A cavern, there's multiple ways in and out. That's the difference. So you can get trapped in a cave, not a cavern. So anyway, it was a cavern, and but they had huge space, obviously, because it's a cavern. So they made all these, made like all these venue spaces. And first we had one section, 300 people showed up, and then we were like, wow, this space got packed with 300 people. Let's look at bleeding this out into like a lobby type area, like the main cavern section. So that went to like 450, and we're like, okay, and they're like, we're opening up this other section over here. Hopefully it will be done in time for your event next year. So then that year we had 2 big room events and then that spillover lobby area, and we had 600 people show up that year. It was crazy. That was in 2019, and then COVID happened and kind of disrupted everything for a little bit. And then when we got back on the map in 2021, I had to change venues for a lot of different reasons, but I was looking for outdoor venues and all types of stuff during the whole COVID thing, and I found a cool place called Copper and Kings Distillery, which was a very similar vibe to the original restaurant that we were at, because there's outside, inside, nice courtyard, big fire pit, all types of stuff. Bars all over the place. Got the food catered, brands to sponsor it, all that stuff. They give away, they all have their tables at the event, so they can give away free swag and hang out with everybody. And it's just a great time to network. Again, 600 people showed up to that. People were just ready to come back to Equip, and it's been like that ever since. So it seems like that seems to be like the sweet spot, the sweet number, until our community grows even more, I guess. But such as yourself, if you come, that's 601. So like every year there's people that you would imagine that will come. Maybe some people don't come, so the numbers kind of balance themselves out, but. So we're probably kind of at that peak for a little while there, like I said, until maybe there's another surge in growth with businesses and in the community, new people coming into the community, starting businesses or stumbling upon the community or whatever. But so that's just kind of been, the whole growth of all that. And that's what the rally is on Thursday night every single year since 2016. Actually, since 2014, but it's just been a different location every year, and it's gotten bigger and bigger every year. And it's all streamlined in the Road to Equip Facebook group. All the information I post there, all the other content creators post their stuff there, like their meetups, all the content that they create while they're there or about it beforehand. Paul Jameson, Green Street Podcast. He'll upload a podcast with Chris Kaiser from OPEI talking about what to expect this year, like things like that. So it's just a really good destination for everyone to go to on Facebook to stay dialed into Equip if that's what you are interested in. And then you can see all the different events. All the events are like up on the announcement section, like the YouTube rally Thursday night at 6 p.m. This year, though, the big announcement I almost forgot is at the Yum Center, which is downtown, which is yet another reason why downtown is such a big attraction area. But the Yum Center is a big stadium where they have like professional sports, concerts, all types of stuff. And because it's the 40th anniversary for Equip, they've been doing this 40 years. So that's a long time. It's a big show, and they've been doing this for a long time. So they're having a big celebration with all types of stuff, giveaways, all types of performances. They got Third Eye Blind coming on Thursday night. So they've got a big concert Thursday night at the Yum Center at, I believe, 8 o'clock or something like that. 8 or 8:30, I think, is when Third Eye Blind goes on. So we're actually going to have the rally in the Yum Center upstairs in the VIP space that holds over 600 people. Huge space, huge windows. You can look out at the river right there, and just really cool. Same thing, cash bars everywhere, and food is going to be catered. Brands are going to be there that have been the sponsors all this time, and everyone that wants to come and attend, content creators. And you don't obviously have to be a content creator, but anyone and everyone in the community that hears this and that goes to Equip and wants to just hang out, it's a great time to decompress. Your first main day. Thursday is like the first main day. Wednesday, they open up in the afternoon. So it's like a half a day, which is cool. But a lot of people, kind of come in on Wednesday. So they really just wait till Thursday morning to just get after it. And they just kind of do it all in one day. And then they're open on Friday as well. But Thursday is like, and they have a shorter day on Friday, but Thursday is that main day that everybody, if there's one day, especially if you're local, people are like maybe an hour away or live in Kentucky somewhere, they can just drive right on over. They do that on Thursday. They don't worry about, any of the other days, because, Thursday is a day when the majority of the people go. So you have the biggest opportunity to network. All the booths, all of the vendor booths are going to have their best their best of everything's going to be there. They're not going to Friday. Then might be all out of swag. The giveaways might be all gone. The demos outside might have gotten broken or dirty or whatever by then. You know what I mean? They might have packed some stuff up. Like Thursday's a day where everyone is at their best. So it's a big, busy, long day. So Thursday night's a great time to get together at the rally and just hang out, drink, eat, relax, talk, meet new friends, reconnect with old friends, and just kind of decompress everything and plan for the rest of the week, if you're going to stay through Friday or whatever. But that's kind of what it's all at there. But Thursday morning also, like you alluded to, I think off air, is the morning show at Expo, which we have live podcasting on stage Thursday morning at 8 a.m. before the Equip even opens. So you just need your badge and you can get in for free. It's a free, just like the rally's free, even though it's off site, it's free. And because of all the brand sponsors. And then the same thing with Equip. It's just because you're registered for Equip, you can get into Equip. So it's it's not like a class that you have to pay extra for. It's a free event for you to come and hang out. We're going to be on stage, myself, Paula Jameson with the Green Street Podcast, Kayla Bauman with the Kid Contractor Podcast. 3 of us are going to be up on stage, podcasting separately. It's a really cool format, really cool setup. And we're going to be interviewing folks live on stage in front of a live studio audience. And then John Pajak goes around with a microphone with Profits by Pajak. He's got a podcast now too. And he goes around and gives everyone an opportunity to ask questions. So what happens is just for people to visualize what a live podcast looks like. Well, for one thing, there's huge screens, everywhere for everyone, because it got so big. Again, last year was the second big full year of it used to be called Influencer Live, and now it's rebranding to called the Morning Show at Expo, because it's a permanent agenda for the show, permanent event, or at least for the unforeseeable future. So it's just part of the thing. So, but last year it was so packed. It was like they had like 3 connecting adjoining rooms, like where the keynote speaker is. They had that whole thing. We've got the stage and furniture, and we've got screens all the way out on both sides, so that the people sitting way out on the left and the right side can just look at the screen in front of them instead of trying to look all the way down in the middle where we are. So they can. It's like a just picture like a concert vibe. That's kind of how it is, except it's not a concert, but that's how the setup is, because there's just so many people, and we're up there and we're podcasting. So I start off, Mr. Producer plays my intro, gets everybody pumped up, and I start my podcast just like any other podcast, but it's literally live, and I'm interacting with the audience. You can hear them hooting and hollering in the background, and I'm interviewing a guest. Like last year, it was I don't remember, but I think I interviewed Corey Ballard one year and so on. So like, I have my guest next to me and we're just sitting on a couch or on chairs. The furniture has evolved also over time, but we're just hanging out on stage and we're talking for like 20 minutes, just a full blown interview episode, talking about Equip, talking about whatever. And then we leave 5 minutes for Q&A. At the end, and all that's being recorded, and then Mr. Producer gets that all sounding beautiful, and we can upload it whenever we want, like the week after or whatever, so that anyone that couldn't go can hear it, and they can still get that value just like any other podcast, and hopefully that'll make them want to come next year. And then so after my episode's done, we take a short couple of minute break. Kohler plays their ads, the lights go dim and Kohler plays their commercials on all the screens while we swap out behind the scenes. Like I go, so when we're not podcasting, we're off to the side of the stage, like, kind of next to everybody, but off to the side. We're like the peanut gallery, we're sitting on the couch over there, just kind of like, like the co-hosts or whatever. So we just kind of swap everybody out. The guests swap in and out from the audience, they sit up front and they swap out. So then Caleb comes up, he comes from the couch and then goes, sits over into the interview spot, and he sits there, and the guests come up and sits there, and he interviews someone different, and his music plays and he does his thing, the same thing, rinse and repeat. And then we do the same thing. Kohler plays the commercial, we rotate one more time, Paul comes over and sits down with his guest, and we're all hanging out, and he closes the show out in typical Paul Jameson fashion, and we have a good old time. And then by then it's 9:30 and everyone's fired up and ready to hit the showroom floor or the outside demo area, and it's just a good time. There's a ton of value. I mean, if you guys enjoy listening to our podcast, imagine being there live. It was standing room only, double row last year. Like Equip was freaking out because they were like, "Oh my gosh, these people can't stand here for an hour and a half." Like literally, as soon as we started, it was just like double row, wall to wall to wall. Like all three walls were 2 rows of people standing, and all of the 400 something plus seats were full. So they were like scrambling to go to other rooms, grabbing chairs, trying to give things for people to sit. So it is what it is. Get there early, I guess, for a seats. It's 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. There's no more bigger space. I mean, I think they joked we could go into Freedom Hall, which is also a stadium, another stadium. I mean, you just go in Freedom Hall. I was like, oh, man, that's really big time. Like, we really are a concert. But then we'd have all the space in the world. So, but anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But so that's another fun event on Thursday morning. So Thursday is just a big day, a lot going on. So it's cool to get together Thursday night at 6 p.m. at the Yum Center and just hang out and kind of decompress and relax. And then if you want to go catch Third Eye Blind after, go right on downstairs and just rock out with Third Eye Blind and hundreds and thousands of other people, having a good old time. Because like over 20,000 people come to Equip every year. So it's a lot of people. They're not obviously all in the same place at the same time, but it's a lot of people spread out all over Louisville. So it's fun for sure.
Naylor, I'm not going to hold you up any longer. That was excellent. I can tell you're a podcaster. You made my life really easy for this whole interview here. With that being said, takeaways from just what you're talking about with Equip there. Sounds like downtown's the place to stay. At least for me, that's what I'll be thinking about. Thursday would be the big day, definitely, with all the different events going on, as well as with attending the Equip Expo there. And definitely those events, and check out that Facebook group page that you've got there, the Road to Equip, I believe it's called now, Equip,
yes,
as opposed to the Road to GIE there.
Yeah.
And Naylor, where can our audience go to find out more about you, what you've got going on, wherever you want to send them to?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I mean, if you just Google LCR, Lawn Care Rookie, a whole bunch of stuff will come up. I'm pretty much everywhere, but I've got my own podcast, the LCR Media Podcast, so you can check that out. I definitely keep everyone updated on that more so than anything else. I still am on YouTube and try to get back into. I try to, I go through waves of consistency with creating YouTube videos. It takes a lot more work to consistently put out YouTube videos than it does podcasts, but I'm on YouTube as well. I really enjoy that. It's just a lot of very time consuming different parts of the year, but trying to get back on the wagon with that. Also on Instagram, Facebook, all that. Just Lawn Care Rookie or LCR, both will work. Something will come up, sometimes both. Like on Instagram, I have Lawn Care Rookie and LCR Media Instagram pages, kind of talking about different things. So you can just follow me on all that. But definitely, if it comes to Equip, Road to Equip, and then go on Equip's website. And there's tons of resources on the website, like all the hotels, what hotels are left, what hotels have shuttles to and from and where and all that, and you can book them right there on the website. So yeah, it's very, very, very convenient resources that they have for you guys. You just got to get there, and then you have a great time.
And you also have a discount code, I believe, for Equip for tickets, and that's leading right up to it, I believe. What's your discount code there?
Yeah, it's code LCR, and you save 50% off registration if you're not registered yet, for sure. Thanks. Forgot about that.
And if you sign up for Equip, that counts for HNA, right? It's a partnership there. So our Hardscape listeners wanting to go HNA, just go to Equip website, get your ticket, use code LCR, and that'll discount the tickets there.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all under one roof. Huge exposition center. They've literally this year, Chris Kaiser, the president of OPEI, who runs Equip now, he said on recently to me and to Paul and on podcasts, they've filled up all of their available space. Like there's literally nowhere else for them to go in the exposition center. So they went in the Kentucky Exposition Center many years, 40 years ago, because they knew it was a place that was unique and that all the outside acreage that they could demo. And that's what makes them so unique and why so many people go to Equip, because you can actually use the equipment, not just go to the showroom floor and look at the shiny equipment and talk about it. You can actually go outside and play with it all and try it all out and then actually maybe buy it. But they've run out of space. So now they literally have packed that place out. HNA contributes to that as well, so that everybody's there having a good old time.
Naylor, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. If you haven't already, please leave us a rating and review, whether you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Apple Podcasts, you can leave a rating and then leave a written review. That would really help us here. As well as Spotify, you can just click a couple times and leave a 5-star rating. These ratings really help with podcasts, so I would greatly appreciate it there. And I've been reading a few written reviews from Apple Podcasts as I can with these new episodes. So going back to Mason Trees, the title is My New Favorite Landscaping Podcast, 5 stars. These guys do awesome interviews with some of the most knowledgeable people I've ever heard from. Every show I learn at least 2 new things, even shows that I think have nothing to do with my niche. Keep it up, guys. You have a loyal follower here. And that's great to hear from somebody probably outside of the hardscape niche, but this is really applicable to a lot of different businesses within the green industry and then possibly even outside. So thank you, Mason Trees, for that written review. We've got another one here. Thank you for putting in the time as the title, 5 stars. Great podcast for the veteran landscaper and even the kid contractors we all started as. That's from Johnner2117. And finally, great content is the title from Kyle0551. One of the best podcasts I've come across in regards to the hardscape space. Thanks for the great information and for sharing some of the best in the biz with us. And hopefully these written reviews hold up because these are from 2020. So thank you so much for leaving those reviews. And we want to say thank you to our sponsors once again here, Cycle CPA. If you're looking for bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA, cyclecpa.com. Love to know How to Hardscape sent you for $200 off their services there. And if you're looking to add outdoor lighting to your hardscape business, reach out to Inlight Design. That's INLITE Design on Instagram. Get that conversation started there and give them a follow to get some great inspiration from their feed. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.